Hello, everyone. Having a good conference so far? Good. Excellent. Excellent. Have you managed to get your coffee after the last talk? Excellent. Thanks, Dave. That was like a trip down memory lane for me. I can concur that working at GDS and the Government Digital Service at that time was quite an emotional experience, not least because I also had the first baby at GDS, and I remember being in a room like this, an event like this, and being invited to come up on stage to stand next to our own Minister for the Cabinet Office, where the digital teams were, and have a photo opportunity, which was both lovely and very embarrassing at the time. But it spoke to the culture of inclusion and community at that time. So I'm Sara Bowley, and I'm the Deputy Director for Digital in Health and Disability at the Department for Work and Pension in the UK. And firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you. It's a huge privilege for me to be invited to talk to you all in Iceland today. Iceland's a country which I have always wanted to visit, and also thank you for putting on a spectacular display of Northern Lights last night. It was incredible. Thank you. So I am all about using technology to better society, and I love nothing better than connecting with people dedicated to doing the same. So like all of you in this room, bonding over the challenges, sharing ideas for how we make public services better for everyone. And I've had some brilliant conversations over the last couple of days, and I've loved learning about all the innovation that you're driving here in Iceland. And for me, transformation isn't really a technology thing. It's a people thing. The role of people in transformation is a real sort of topic that's very close to my heart, because I firmly believe that it's how you engage people and who you engage that ultimately determines how successful you will be. I've spent my entire career in digital, an eye-watering 25 years now, in a range of different industries. And my most recent roles have been working in public sector organisations and in governments, helping them to evolve to meet the needs of users in a modern digital era. And over the next 20 minutes, I'll share some of what I've learnt along the way about human-centred change, drawing from 3 organisations I've worked with, the Government Digital Service, the BBC, and currently at the Department for Work and Pension. But before I dive into the case studies, I want to talk a little bit about the language of change. The theme of this year's conference is change management, and change management is one of those phrases that goes hand in hand with another a well-known phrase called digital transformation. And Dave touched on this as part of his talk earlier. And for me, they are almost terms that are now so overused to the point where all meaning is lost. And as a result, organisations fail to understand them and fail to make successful change. So if we cut through all the theory, what do they really mean? And now I'm going to do my own definition of digital transformation. You can tell me whether mine and Dave's match. But let's start with digital transformation. In our context, that means changing the way that government works, its behaviour, its culture, its processes, so it can better serve the needs of citizens in a modern digital era. Change management means how we facilitate that change so it lasts. Change that sticks long after your digital rock stars and your expensive consultants have left the building. A wise colleague once told me, the trick with change management is to snap the elastic band. Not just stretch it. A stretched elastic band will recoil back to the shape that it once was. But if you snap it, its form is changed permanently. And it's people, not really technology, that that will help you to snap that elastic band and to make change stick. So, on to my first case study. So Dave talked a little bit about this, but I first became aware of the power of people in transformation back in 2012, whilst working at the Government Digital Service. Dave talked about kind of what an exciting time that was, and GDS, as it was commonly known, was created in the heart of government, in the Cabinet Office, to initially transform its website from the hundreds of disparate, siloed, complicated websites to a single domain, gov.uk, one coherent, joined up, user-friendly government website. And GDS placed users very, very visibly at the heart of its change agenda. Its mantra was start with user needs, and in our office in central London, somebody stuck this to the window as a reminder for all of us working there who we were building our services for and that we should be talking directly to them. User research was a team sport, so whole teams and leadership participated in research. Not just your user researchers and your product managers, but engineers talked directly to frontline staff and to customers. Everyone was encouraged to listen, to observe, to take notes in research sessions about once every 6 to 8 weeks. And what that meant was that everyone was really invested in it, and we were confident of the change that we were making and that the change would be successful because we were getting regular feedback directly from the people who would be using our services. And also importantly, stories about users were central to all of our internal communications. And that really helped to create a buzz and an energy and a momentum, and to connect the people who were doing the work to the real people who would be using our services. During this time, I quickly found that bringing subject matter experts into the heart of our digital teams built trust, not only better products and services. And subject matter experts, or SMEs as we call them, were part of the team, not just part of a working group that met once a month and you couldn't really, you'd agree something, you'd go away and then nothing would happen in between. When we built the new Foreign Office travel advice service, bringing consulate staff and legal advisors together with the digital teams helped us deliver change and embed digital ways of working quicker than we ordinarily would. And together, we built a prototype in about 8 weeks, showing what the service would look like early really did help to build trust and buy-in. And Dave talked a bit about kind of trust and needing to have trust for transformation. And I think, being able to show something working early is a really good way of building that trust with your colleagues across government. And investing in relationships, building empathy, and having our subject matter experts embedded in our teams meant that we could iterate and transform that service quickly in a matter of months. It was about 4 months. So on to my second case study, which is the BBC, UK public service broadcaster, where I worked as delivery director for its digital products. Hopefully some familiar to you, iPlayer Sounds, BBC News. And the BBC is on an organisation-wide modernisation drive. It still is, to become a digital-first organisation, to grow, to reach new and younger audiences, and to remain relevant in the digital age. And the vision's a bold one. It's to build on its strengths to create a global public service digital media organisation. Now, the BBC cannot compete with the budgets of Amazon, Netflix, but it can use the breadth of its content and services to create a more integrated and relevant digital service for users. and to be that trusted, impartial media provider, which is particularly important, I think, with the rise of misinformation and in an increasingly polarised world. And building momentum for that transformation meant bringing large parts of a very disparate, bureaucratic organisation together to work on this change, to break departmental silos and harness the power of the BBC working together across the breadth of the whole of its portfolio to create more user value at scale. Ooh. Yeah, we're on the right slide. Excellent. So when thinking about the role of people in transformation, I think it's really important to start at the top, to think about how you involve and engage your leadership. It's leadership in your organisation that creates the conditions and the space for change. At the BBC, we set up a digital leadership group with senior leaders, not necessarily digital specialists, across the organisation to help to drive the change and to advocate for it. And this included leadership of our supporting services as well, such as human resources, HR, procurement, finance, as well as our editorial subject matter experts. And when we first set up this group, we found that the leaders across the organisation were behind a digital-first BBC. They were like, yeah, great, let's go. But they didn't really know what it meant, and they certainly didn't know what it meant for them. So we started interviewing a bunch of people, a bunch of leaders at various levels across the organisation, with the help of Public Digital, actually, who obviously Dave's just talked now. And what we did with them is interview these leaders and create together a common language to describe what digital first was. Based on feedback from interviews and for various workshops, we created a list of characteristics of a good digital organisation. And this created a common understanding of what we were aiming for. Now, none of these 5 characteristics here are new concepts. Variations of them are used by lots of organisations to describe change and digital transformation, and I'm sure you use various, maybe perhaps different words to describe similar concepts. But importantly, these words were created by the people who would be driving the change. And we wanted to find that language that resonated, that was accessible to the widest range of people and experiences at the BBC, something that we could refer to throughout the change. We also created BBC-wide OKRs, objectives and key results, with this leadership group. We called these our group-level objectives. And introducing business objectives was a way of bringing the BBC together, for the BBC to work together in a cross-functional, cross-department way from the leadership down. And it helped to shift culture from delivering features to driving outcomes, and it meant we were clear on focus and on success. iPlayer is now the fastest growing streaming service in the UK, above Netflix and Amazon. We made significant product improvements during this time to our services, including the live experience to reach diverse, more younger audiences. And we also retired a 25-year-old legacy content management system and replaced it with a modern, fit-for-purpose publishing tool for our journalists. We thought at this time a lot about how we put our multidisciplinary teams together. Now, you're all familiar with cross-functional teams made up of engineers and product managers and designers. And earlier, I talked about the importance of bringing your subject matter experts kind of together with your digital colleagues in the same team. When building our outcome teams at the BBC, we also found it helpful to think about the type of role that people would have on a team. and we created 3 of them. Teammate, full-time member of the team, mix of digital and your SMEs, your subject matter experts, working day to day together. Second role was collaborators, so senior leads, helping to design, shape work, champion ways of working, involved in planning. And then thirdly, advocates. Now these were senior leaders, often director level, able to prioritise, able to free up budget and people, provide strategic expertise and advocate the change. And it was defining these role types and sharing them that really helped us to set expectations, reduce nervousness, and ensure we had the right people involved in the right way. A quick word on training and the role of training in supporting change. So as we started to bring teams together to work on outcomes, we did develop and provide training as part of the onboarding to new ways of working. Now my thoughts on training are, training can help build confidence and support change, but only if it's practical and relevant to the work that you're doing here and now. Overly theoretical training that lives just on an intranet, isn't much use. And there really is no substitute for bringing people together to work in teams day to day. But you can radically improve the success of your training by co-designing it with the people that it's for. And this is something we did at the BBC. We created a cross-functional team to develop the training and iterated that training based on feedback. And what surprised me most was that one of the benefits of the training is that it can create lasting connections across your organisation's silos. So people involved in the training often stay in touch, especially if you can create communities that continue to support people and for people to enable them to kind of share ideas after the training finishes. And I think communities and playbooks, for example, sort of repeatable approaches and processes can really help to scale knowledge and change across your organisation. So on to my final case study, which is from my current team at the Department for Work and Pension in Health and Disability. So our team's purpose is to build and to maintain user-friendly services that are to enable millions of disabled and people with health conditions in the UK to access the help and the support and the advice that they need. They are vital services. There are almost 4 million people in the UK that receive benefits. And I'm currently working with teams who are transforming a service called the Personal Independence Payment, PIP as it's known, including the health assessment service used by 2 million people with a disability or health condition that need to have an assessment by a health professional as part of claiming the benefit. Now, this service is a service with a lot of problems. It provides a poor experience for people currently with disabilities and the people who support them. It's disjointed, it's hard to understand and navigate. It takes too long and there's low trust, which means that award decisions are often challenged. And frontline staff are frustrated that they can't provide the quality of the service that they want to. Now, there's a lot that needs to change, but time and time again in government, we introduce initiatives without really knowing that they are going to work and without involving our frontline colleagues delivering those services day to day in the design of them. So instead, we're taking a 360-degree approach to the service transformation. We're transforming the service end to end. So from how people find out about and apply for the benefit, through that assessment process, onto the award decision and payment. And we're starting with the needs of the people using the service, bringing together policy and operations staff, healthcare professionals, and our commercial teams, underpinned by one single digital platform to transform every aspect of the service. And this is probably the most kind of important point of my talk today. I think it's that end-to-end problem ownership that I think is really critical to making lasting change. We've recently launched a self-service digital channel that enables people to apply for personal independence payments at a time that suits them. We have piloted it in a few areas in a couple of regions, and we are already seeing great results, cutting average journey times by about 18 days. And we're also getting really good feedback from our users, particularly those that report to having a mental health condition. And in the next few weeks, we are launching our very first end-to-end online service. And this will be the first time that every aspect of this service will be connected together for the first time. We are starting small with a handful of claims and testing as we go. One of the challenges that we found is how do you transform whilst running and maintaining an existing critical service that's relied on and used by often quite vulnerable people. So to test our changes to our services kind of in a safe way, we've set up a small number of learning environments, and we call these our health transformation areas. We're currently running our new health assessment service in 2 sites, in London and in Birmingham. And these sites process small volumes of real claims and help us test and learn what works in a safe way. They help us to iterate the digital platform and the tools used by agents doing the assessments, but they also help us test new operating models and processes with the frontline staff who help to design new ways of working, as well as give us feedback on the digital platform and tools. And it's digital teams working really closely in partnership with our operations staff to kind of introduce change. And getting that rapid feedback from users, from frontline colleagues, is vital before we can scale any change more widely. When thinking about the role of people in transformation, I think I learnt this late, but really don't forget to involve your supporting services from the start. So that's human resources, finance, procurement, internal communications. I read a blog post last week that said procurement is where innovation goes to die. And I see some wry smiles there, but it doesn't have to be like that, and I know it isn't like that everywhere. And actually yesterday we were at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs here, and it was brilliant to hear about some of the innovation. I'm looking at some of the innovation that we're driving in procurement in Iceland here. I think the UK can really learn quite a lot from you. So working with our colleagues to open up the market for startups, for small companies to work with you, and to help you set more flexible contracts to support agile, iterative ways of working is crucial in bringing innovation into your organisation and supporting change. So bring your procurement colleagues right into the heart of your teams. The transformation we're driving at DWP isn't possible without closely working with commercial colleagues in our teams. And, you know, the journey's not finished. We want to go much, much further with our health journey transformation in the UK. We're starting to work across government departments to get that single customer view across different services. We know from our interoperability research that people don't want to keep telling different services the same information over and over again. So we're exploring how we can share data with the National Health Service, the NHS, so users get a more joined up experience across our health services. So, in summary, I will leave you with these final thoughts, which will hopefully spark some ideas in your own teams. And this is what I've learned about the role of people in transformation and change and what to focus on. So, number one, collaborate around outcomes over solutions. Consider setting organisation-wide objectives to get focus and alignment across different silos. Number two, teams, not working groups. So build cross-functional teams with subject matter experts and your supporting services embedded in them. Don't just bring people together in a working group that meets once a month and expect to get some momentum. Three, and importantly, end-to-end problem ownership. Think about the whole service, front and back. Involve everyone, your policymakers, your users, your commercial teams, your frontline staff. Four, think about success together at the start. Build a common language so that you know what you're aiming for. Five, communities and networks can help you to scale change and impact. Don't just deliver training, try to foster communities as well. And finally, and this is the most important one, visibly put users and frontline staff at the very heart of the change and put them very visibly at it, and then communicate those stories kind of across your organisation. And if I can bring you back to the start of my talk, do you remember that image of the elastic bands? Yeah, can you remember that far back? Maybe a bit? So it's by focusing on these 6 things that I found that help you to start to stretch that elastic band and ultimately snap it so that change sticks. Thank you. I will now hand over to Liz.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I am the luckiest person here right now. I am keeping you from coffee, so I appreciate taking the time and not rushing off. I think we're going straight to coffee after this, so the excitement can build a little bit. Just to warn you, I think you've been warmed up by these English people. I'm from Yorkshire, the best place in England. Yeah, thank you, if you've not been. Admittedly, Iceland has slightly more enjoyable places to visit. But I can speak quite quickly, so I'm going to try and go slow, because my talk's about people, so right now you're the most important people in my life, because I want you to find this interesting. No challenge there for you. And a lot of this will resonate, but I just want to pause on this. This, for me, is an African proverb that really resonates with what I want to talk about today. That it takes a village to raise a child, or a municipality, perhaps, as well. But I think it does really resonate an awful lot around how we work with transformation. And why I love this quote so much, it really does talk about a change management approach. You are affecting change in raising this child. You are teaching, you are learning, you are developing. You are learning yourself during this process as well. And it is definitely not easy for those of us who've been through that experience. You will have struggles. And not everyone will agree with how you are approaching that as well. But actually bringing together all of these elements is what true transformation is all about, in my opinion. Because you cannot do this alone. So before I talk about that, I want to share a little bit about me, because why wouldn't I? I've actually been involved, my career spanned 37 years. I tried to find a picture of me at 19, but we didn't really take pictures unless it was a very special occasion, for those that you remember it. So I've worked in public and private sector, but predominantly my roles have been about change management, about getting people on board. And in public sector, this was before and after digital transformation and technology. When Everything was on paper and in files, when legacy services were exciting when they arrived. Do you remember? Does anybody remember legacy services being great and new and exciting? Or is it just me? But then as my career evolved, I was really lucky. All of the context that Dave and Sara talked about around digital transformation in government, I was sitting in the Department for Work and Pensions at the time, and I was really fortunate to be asked to help deliver the first digital academy in government. And that went on to sort of train over 3,000 public servants at leadership and delivery level. And it was a starting point for people to completely transform their careers. People have now gone on to go and deliver great services. So something I was really proud of. And after that experience, I obviously then left the civil service, because why wouldn't you? But it really encouraged me to co-found Hippo. So we're a professional services organisation, and we provide consultants and teams. But it was a really exciting opportunity to work for an organisation that I wanted to buy from, to bring people in who could affect change and make change. And really the common thread right through all of those opportunities I've had through my career is that to deliver any change, you need to understand and work with people and know when they need a coffee as well, I think, in that journey. But let's look at those people. I kind of look at this in a slightly different way. Well, maybe it's not, but I put a different lens on this. I think there's three layers for me, and it really helps me when I'm thinking about how I structure a problem. It's about the users of the service, who we are transforming this service for, the people who need the service you are delivering. It's about those senior stakeholders we talked about today. They're who are setting the vision and the strategy. And the minister, I think, has gone now, but it's about those people without whom we wouldn't get the business case to move forward. And it's about the wider delivery ecosystem, the teams and individuals who make it happen and who can occasionally be a little bit resistant to that. I'm quite positive, as you can probably gather. So let's unpick this a little. Let's start with users. This was a game changer in my career, fundamentally, this approach. I wouldn't be stood here today if this didn't happen in government. And I know I've got many colleagues and friends whose careers have changed fundamentally because of it. Remember this picture? I hope you do. I mean, it was literally about 15 minutes ago. This is an incredibly powerful image when we were delivering the Digital Academy. We used this because it was a really way to sort of focus people on what we meant. It was something people could relate to. Before user-centered design, we always talked about customers. And we always assumed we knew what was best for those customers. We knew the answer. We knew the solution. We didn't need to talk to them. They got it in the end and it was fine. But actually taking that evidence-based approach and working with service users shifted the focus, shifted it to outcome and value. It was a real culture change as well for people. It created empathy because you could look at something that people could relate to. And alongside ways of working, so it was two things. You had that user-centered design and you worked differently. You built prototypes so you could see a thing, you could see the impact and prove or disprove it quickly. You could test out your technical solutions quickly without spending lots of money. All of those things were a catalyst that helped to have the right conversation and engagement. And it's a key tool for relationship and change management, in my opinion. But somebody's got to make that happen. And it fundamentally starts with that senior stakeholder. While I was doing my master's, I loved change management theories. They're great fun because you can sort of look at how you apply them as well. So John Cotter's 8-step change model is quite interesting if you are into that sort of thing, which I clearly am. But this statement really resonates with me. You can't deliver unless the head of the organisation is an active supporter. You cannot deliver what you seek to do. Whether it's a minister or a director, the key role is you need somebody who will establish the vision, who will set the strategy, who will make sure that the resources are lined up to deliver that strategy as well. They champion the change. They will remove blockers if they're really significant, if you can't do that yourself as well. And just kind of bring that to life a little bit, I'm going to talk about a delivery I was involved in. When I finished at the academy, I went to do a digital delivery. I think we've got there's a common thread of talking about things that have happened so long ago, we've had to look them up to remember what they were. But actually, it really helps bring it to life. The service was for patients with a terminal condition. So these are individuals who've been diagnosed as being critically ill, and timing is of the essence. Financial support and well-being is critical for these people. And the way we delivered that, surprisingly enough, was not great. A healthcare professional, a doctor, a specialist nurse, was asked to fill in a form. They went and got that form out of a locked cupboard, and then they filled that form in. And I don't know about Iceland, but in the UK, when a healthcare professional, when a doctor fills in a form, they're not always easy to read. And I don't think any sort of data models, a shiny model would do that. So it was a bit of a challenge. It was then posted back to the postal centre. And then something really great did happen because it was sent to a specialist operational team. So the way that the department managed that was to put in a clerical process, was to build a specialist team whose objective was to deliver that outcome quickly. So once we got hold of it, the service was excellent. So a great business case for change. Not financially, 20,000 people a year, not significant. They were getting benefit relatively quickly. But it was a catalyst. It was something that we could really prove out. And it was seen as a simple problem to solve. Not always the case. But we needed a supporter. This is Kevin Cunnington. He was then the Director of Digital Transformation in the Department of Work and Pensions. He'd come in to help do the transformation of the organisation internally. He went on to be the Director General of Government Digital Services and an international envoy talking about digital. And I think he was here 2 years ago, if anybody was here 2 years ago, doing a talk as well. But he knew as part of building capability, introducing ways of working, he wanted to find cases where we could move quickly. We had a big transformation programme, but he wanted some quick wins as well to show the way of working was effective. So he got us the approval, he got us the team, he got us a plan. Brilliant. We forgot about one tiny complication. We needed another organisation to get involved, another very large organisation to get involved and on board, and therefore another supporter. So we found the Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Service Digital Programme, Rob Shaw, at the time, because we couldn't have delivered this without the NHS supporting us. And Rob was responsible for managing, his portfolio was not bad, 50 million patient records, critical infrastructure, a huge programme of development and transformation. His responsibilities were vast. But he knew that actually supporting this initiative would help his organisation to transform, would show the value of working collaboratively and together as well. So he provided the team, the business case, the space and the support to make this happen. And without it, again, another blocker that we couldn't have overcome. So what happened? Well, it allowed us to go from this to this. And this is, again, simple. A simple service. The GP gets an electronic request, or the doctor or the healthcare professional. They access a form. They fill in the form. They submit the form. And it arrived at the operations centre straight away to be dealt with. I think what was important about that service was not just that it showed you could deliver value. It was actually what we could demonstrate fundamentally about what we could achieve. It really helped us to show the experience and the value. It got stakeholders on board. It got people to understand and empathise with why you could deliver transformation. But of course, that didn't just happen, that form, as I'm sure lots of you know. We needed people to deliver it and to build it and to make it work and secure. So you can't do that without that delivery ecosystem. And that's not just about the agile teams working on the ground. I think Sara talked about that a little bit earlier on. It's definitely not about that. Amazing though they are, I think we'll all recognise. Let's go. I don't like to waste a model. Somebody designed this for me, and it's such a lovely picture. I have to come back to it again. So I was going to bring another theory in that I thought, no, let's go back to Cotter. I'm pushing my luck already getting this done. But actually, Cotter's really helpful about this. And he talks about the power of a guiding coalition. And that's really about people in different levels and different departments within an organisation. And they're the ones that will drive the change. So at the top down, you've got that strategy and vision, but actually, we all know, the Minister has gone so we can say it, we're the ones that make it work. The teams on the ground are the ones that make it work. So, and all those things are important. So in the scenario I've talked about, what did that village look like? Well, it's pretty complex. And we were talking about 2 organisations here, 2 of the largest organisations in government across the UK. We had 2 digital delivery teams working together on this in both organisations. That was brilliant, and that was relatively easy because we used the common language of Agile. We use user-centred design to work together. So you could be in different organisations, but you understood about planning, backlogs, prioritisation. We used hacks and workshops to test out solutions. We collaborated on those solutions. We built prototypes. It created a real energy and passion, and we came together regularly to do that and to work out some really challenging technical solutions. We were sharing data across 2 departments. I'd love to say we've solved that problem, but we haven't solved that problem. We solved it with sticking plaster. It was a really tactical solution, but it worked. It worked. And then you've also got, in this village, you've got all the people that make this service work, the people who implement it, who train people, who operationalise it. I really thought I wouldn't get that word out. Apologies. So I'm just going to pause for a moment. I'm so proud of myself for being able to say that without losing the... Yeah. But in this case, again, 2 silos. We had to go to clinical governing bodies to get assurance, operational governance groups, security, assurance, just to convince people that we were going to do this safely and securely, that patient data wasn't going to be corrupted or shared openly on the web, which somebody generally did think that would happen as well. So what we did is we got them involved. There were subject matter experts on the team. They were in the show and tells. They came to approval bodies and boards. It allowed us to just let them trust us. And we talked about trust earlier on. It helped convey the trust that we weren't going to put increased burden on medical staff, that this is going to make things easier for everybody. There were many, many other stakeholders, and we forgot some, and you can't ignore them. Dave's absolutely right. Sometimes you've got to drive a change. When you're trying to embed transformation into a large organisation like this, you cannot ignore those stakeholders. They might let you get away with it once, but they'll not forget the next time. It won't stick. So you've got to understand them. And this is where I strongly advocate one of the best sort of working tools I've ever used, the good old stakeholder map and the stakeholder analysis. You need to know where your stakeholders are and what you think they're going to feel about this and how you interact with them. And it's a discovery, it's a product at inception that you should kick off as a team because it helps paint that landscape. Because sometimes you're going to have to go out and see your stakeholders in environments that they're in, go to meetings, attend that, have one-to-ones, have a coffee with them, talk to them, understand where the challenges are so you can overcome that. You're only going to deliver an amazing service as a result of that. It's going to get better and better when you go through that. I don't believe anybody's intent is to stop something. I believe we just want to protect, we want to trust. You know, we're in important roles where we don't want our users to be vulnerable or worse off as a result of what's happening. And it's never an intent, I don't believe, to deliberately subvert something. I'm sure there are cases where that's actually probably once, but I won't talk about that. I would advocate you've got to find ways to connect. And I'm pretty convinced you all do that. The fact that you're all here today proves that as well. Because in public sector, if you want to deliver, your village is spanning a silo, it's spanning organisational barriers, it's ministries, it's municipalities. I mean, I've learned so amazing things about the services you're delivering. You've got to connect those. You've got to understand it. Our users don't really care about how we're organised. We're not important to them, let's be honest, right? We don't want to be important to them. They're not bothered. They just want an outcome. They want to receive that benefit. They want to access a service. They think we're connected. I don't know if it's an interesting one here, actually. In the UK, they think we're all joined up. They're surprised when we're not, when they see we're not. So, after all that, and before I get you for coffee, what have I learned? After 37 years, I've learned a lot. And I think I'm still learning around that. But there's some things that I kept with me before and after that digital transformation space that completely changed sort of my life as well, is that change management is critical to success and you must bring people with you. So, just to contextualise it and bring it a bit up to date, when we formed Hippo, we kept the values that aligned with that. It was really important to us, myself and the co-founders. In every scenario, really, we've got some amazing consultants. There are 500 specialists in our organisation who are brilliant. But it doesn't really matter if you're technically competent, in my opinion. The what is not as important as the how you deliver. Because you can deliver the best solution, but if people aren't on board with it, it's a waste of effort and time. So the how is so important. And that is actually what makes great consultancy, in my opinion. And absolutely, Dave's point, to some extent, it's a word people don't like, but if it's done right, it's amazing. And I can see you've got that going on here as well. I think the job is never done. In Hippo, we carried that through 80 services that we've worked on in the last 7.5, 8 years. The 40 million patients that are able to access their health records from zero, that's an advocate of the way of working for us. The 2.5 million clinically vulnerable people we supported during COVID, sending out 5 million food parcels, working across private and public sector to make that happen. I think never underestimate or neglect the need to bring together that guiding coalition. So let's go back to that great quote, which I love. I think in the journey of change and transformation, we all have different children we are raising. And the only way you're going to achieve success is to get your village involved. And I encourage you all to continue to do that because it's clear you're already doing that as well. So I hope you stay on that journey and you will continue to achieve amazing and awesome things. Thank you very much.